Hi, I'm Dara, and this is A Right Way. Of course, there's no quote unquote right or wrong way to write as long as you keep on writing. That's the most important thing. And let's take a second to talk about plot. All right, plot. This is what happens in the story. And oftentimes, plots for film and television can be boiled down to what we refer to as a log line. A log line is a 1 or 2 sentence description of what happens in the story. And if you have an idea for a story and you can't boil it down to a sentence or two, you probably need to think about ways to streamline it and make it more simplistic. This isn't to say that you're dumbing down your idea or your story or your vision, but it is a way to streamline the story so that it's more cohesive, more digestible for audiences, and easier to pitch because obviously, whether you're pitching in Hollywood or you're just pitching to friends and family or you just want to do this independently on your own, for the most part, you're going to need to get other people on board. And a 1 or 2 sentence, what we call elevator pitch for your story, that's definitely the way to go. And for plot, you always want to have an explanation that breaks down who the main character is and what happens to this character. You know, what is the point of the quote unquote hero's journey? So the main character, ideally in your story, is going to go through an experience that transforms them one way or the other, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that they go on a journey that quote unquote makes them a better person. It doesn't have to be as basic as that. But whatever happens, it needs to be super, like I said, a super simple explanation just to get the ball rolling. So right now I'm gonna live a little fast and loose and dangerous and just come up with some basic, plot lines or log lines off the top of my head, and it may sound or come out kind of crazy, but this is also like a great way to challenge myself and, show my brainstorming process. Okay, here's one. Um, an alien moves to planet Earth and is isolated until he turns out to be the best dancer. Okay, it needs a little work, so I need to find a way to simplify this and also make it better. So even if it's not the best idea in the world, there's a way to take that idea and refine it a little more. So I have an alien that comes to planet Earth, and he is, obviously looked at strangely and not well received by everybody. So this kind of shows like the premise is that everyone should be treated with kindness or fairness. Or another piece of the premise could be that everybody deserves a fair shot, right? So another component could also be you don't know what someone has to offer until you give them the chance. So the alien is on planet Earth and he's ostracized and he turns out to be a great dancer, and then maybe he wins a dance competition and that changes the trajectory of everything and makes him more accepted and well liked, etc. So let's think of a way to spice this up a little bit. What's distinctive about this alien? So what if the alien is introverted? So that adds another layer to this. An introverted alien lands on planet Earth, and the way that he expresses himself, because he's not very verbal, is through dance, and through this dance is how he opens up a new opportunity, a new scope. I'm just pitching off at the top of my head here. Let's keep going with the alien. So sometimes you have to just take an idea and keep thinking it through. I like to do this on, pen and paper or, writing in an app on the computer. But it's great to just be able to talk through an idea too at the same token. So it's, I'm showing you a little bit of the secret sauce as to how I do my process, and maybe this will help you. Let's stay with our alien. So, an introverted alien lands on planet Earth. Let's build on that. An introverted alien is abandoned on planet Earth. Maybe he could never find a community anywhere, even on his planet. Maybe he just was never accepted and well liked, period. So he kind of keeps to himself, and somewhere in the galaxy, as they're traveling through, this poor guy, they just leave him on planet Earth and keep going on to the next galaxy, and he's just an afterthought. So here he is in this place where, he doesn't know anything about, he's completely a fish out of water, and it's a completely new experience, but the experience of isolation and feeling on his own is not new. So now we're taking, an alien, someone who is an extraterrestrial creature, but making him more heartfelt, more relatable. So an introverted alien is abandoned on planet Earth by his family. So people close to him have left him. So his expectations of anyone caring or wanting to be friends with him are pretty low. And he's not verbal. Obviously, he can't speak any of the languages that people speak on planet Earth. So, as a result of this, the way that he expresses himself, and it's just by happenstance, perhaps, this is part of the secret magic of the movie, or what makes it set apart from all of these other alien type comedies, if you will. But what sets him apart is that he actually can, he's a great dancer. That's how he expresses himself. And maybe in his day-to-day interactions, when people, obviously he walks, he's walking down the street, everyone's like staring and glaring like, who or what is that? But he, as opposed to walking, maybe he's at certain points dancing down the street. And can you use your imagination and picture this alien initially, instead of walking, maybe he slides or glides the way that other people on his planet do. And perhaps there are emotional triggers that cause him to dance. So he's not just constantly dancing all over the place, but maybe when he's very happy, he dances, or when he's very angry, he dances. So let's think about which one of those two things could make for a more intriguing story. And I think it would be more intriguing if when he was angry, he started dancing. Like it was something that kind of happened abruptly and he didn't expect it. So many of us, when we get angry, our blood pressure rises. For some of us, we might start balling up our fist, and the desire is to want to like physically fight or flight, whatever, however you respond to anger. But the way he's going to respond to anger is he breaks out into like this really cool dance move, and all of a sudden it's just by happenstance. So I'm imagining a situation where the alien, he's abandoned. These are his first moments on planet Earth. So immediately people would start pointing at him, glaring, staring. So he decides the safest and smartest thing that he should do is hide. So he finds a hiding place. Maybe he's in an alley, or he happens upon an abandoned warehouse, etc. Some place where he can feel safe and hopefully not be captured and hunted down. Then, he stays in there for a while, but he has a need. He sees something curious outside the window that catches his attention, or he has a more pressing need, like he needs food and water. Comes out into the world. He sneaks out in the middle of the night. There aren't that many people around. But just when he thinks he's making it back home with, the food or the water that he's come across or whatever. So food and water, that's what humans need. So we need to think a little more creatively outside the box. What might the alien need? And it might be, I don't know. It might be like metal, might be his source of nourishment. So if you can picture, the alien sees uh, aluminum wheels on a car, and to him, maybe that looks like a steak dinner or what have you. Like he's salivating at the mouth to get to that. So he uses his alien arms to, you know, take the wheel off of the luxury car, and the owner of the car, the alarm comes out, the owner of the car hears it just in time. He comes out, he can't really see what's going on because it's late at night. It just looks like somebody trying to steal one of the wheels off of his car. He's getting confrontational. He approaches and realizes, like, whoa, this is not a run-of-the-mill human thief here. We got it's an alien. But nonetheless, the owner's running hot, so he still gets angry and confrontational with the alien. Maybe he shoves him, and physically I'm picturing the alien's a little guy, and the owner of the car could be a big, intimidating figure. So the owner of the car pushes the alien down, and all of a sudden, the alien's response to this is, you know, he starts these like cool dance moves, and that's kind of his way of fighting, if you will. But the owner is so like taken aback by all of this that his immediate reaction isn't to keep fighting the alien. On a human level, he reaches for his phone and he starts to record the alien. So now he's like, hey, he's putting it on his phone like, look what I found. And he wants to make some social media posts and go viral. So now the alien, he manages to, the owner's so enraptured with the dance, etc., etc. The alien manages to get the wheel, get out of there just in time, and go back into hiding before the car owner can find him or anybody else can find him. Meanwhile, he's still in hiding. It's going viral, and everybody's wondering, where is this mysterious alien? And so we have the beginnings of a story here, but the premise of the story, and if it like maybe like another important thing about plot is to have your main character have some type of change. We call that a character arc, where they start off one way and they're going to be different, not necessarily better, not necessarily worse, but there's going to be some kind of noted change. Like, what was the whole point of us watching this movie for an hour and a half or 2 hours if nobody changed and everyone stayed exactly the same? So initially, the alien, he's shy, he's introverted. The last thing in the world, or last thing in the universe he wants to do is do anything that's public facing, like a dance competition. But we can find ways to, slowly get him to come out of his shell, if you will. And now maybe that's the heart of the premise. Instead of everybody deserves a fair shot or you don't know what anybody has to offer, maybe the premise of the story is rooted in if you come out of your shell, amazing things can happen. Maybe that's the premise. So as you continue to think through what could happen next, all right, so the alien is still in hiding. He's continuing to go viral. He doesn't have a concept of how famous he's become or like what all of this is about. The car owner continues to hunt for the alien, and perhaps maybe it's the car owner's girlfriend who happens to be a professional dancer. We're tying bits and pieces together. And when the owner does, he comes out, the alien comes out again to maybe get that second wheel off of the car. And this time there's another confrontation with the car owner. But instead of trying to beat the alien up, now he's seeing dollar signs because he's like, okay, this alien has moves. The selfish part of him is like, I want to capitalize on this further. So the alien goes in to get that second wheel. The owner comes out and he says, you can have all the wheels on my car. In fact, I'll buy you as many wheels as you want, but under the condition that you live with me. He wants to monetize everything that he can off of the alien. And the alien doesn't fully trust the car owner, obviously, but he's hungry and he doesn't want to be hunted. So he's trying to take his chances here. And when he gets up to the house that the owner has, the girlfriend feels that the alien is exploiting, I'm sorry, the owner is exploiting the alien. And all of a sudden, there's something that happens where the alien is upset. The girlfriend sees the dance moves again, and she wants to use it in a way that's more positive and productive. But she clashes with her boyfriend because he wants to monetize it, and the alien is caught in the middle. So at a certain point in time, as we continue with this story, once again, I'm just completely I haven't done this out loud before. I'm so used to doing this like with pen and paper, but it's actually fun to try this. So once stay with me. So over the course of time, different things will happen, and even in talking this through out loud, it's been fascinating to see how we started off with one concept, one log line, one idea, one premise, and it continues to evolve. Now, the next thing you may be wondering or thinking is like, Dara, that alien idea story isn't all that great. But you know what? Maybe it's not the best movie idea in the world, but that's okay. Like, that's part of the fun of the process, is to continue to brainstorm and play around with different things. But overall, staying focused in on one plot that's rooted in a premise, that's what's going to ultimately help you structure the story in a way that's engaging, intriguing, all of the things that it needs to be to keep audiences watching. So give all of that some thought, and why don't you try pitching a story out loud, just off the top of your head? It's very exhilarating. I feel like I could run a marathon right now. Thank you for watching.